Hey guys, it's me, your old pal Tony. I was thinking I wanted to make a seasonal video, spread a little holiday cheer. So I was trying to think about Christmas movies I could talk about, and I remembered that a couple of years ago I watched a Christmas movie for kids that I would never forget. Well, actually, I did forget pretty much everything about this movie, but I remembered enough to know it'd be a fun one to talk about on here. The movie's called The Search for Santa Paws, and right away you might be thinking that title sounds like it's missing some context. Should we know who Santa Paws is? Is there a reason why someone might want to search for him? And the answer to those questions is yes. And no. This movie is actually a prequel to the movie Santa Buddies, which is itself a holiday themed offshoot of the surprisingly expansive Air Bud universe of films. Yep, the movie about the dog that plays basketball, that Air Bud. But I didn't actually know any of this when I first watched it, so in order to preserve the experience the way that I experienced it the first time, we're just gonna dive into this movie without any of that nasty canon or background information weighing us down. Oh yeah, also like and subscribe and all that. The movie starts with a song, and I want to say all the songs in this movie are pretty terrible, but I've also had like several of them stuck in my head for days, so I don't know, I'll let you decide what that means. We see inside Santa's workshop, the elves are all hard at work making toys, and we see this one elf walking through with a clipboard. He must be a pretty high ranking elf because he seems to be in charge here. We also see this dog dressed as an elf doing his best in his little booties. Then I guess because this is an Air Bud movie, or maybe just because he's like a magical Christmas dog, he starts talking and he announces that Santa is coming. The dog's voiced by Richard Kind, by the way, the Westie with pink eye from Only Murders in the Building. They show this Boston Terrier working the pedal of a vintage sewing machine. He's not a character, but they were just like, but look how talented he is. And they're not wrong, I'd put him in too. So we get our first glimpse at Santa, and this dude is kind of terrifying. I don't know if it's these like evil white eyebrows that they stuck on him, or something about the actor's performance, but this guy's got a dark energy. He's also got this like suspicious magical item around his neck, which I noticed immediately. The elves are scared of him too. They must sense his dark energy. He comes up behind these two elves, and when they turn around and see him, they look terrified and they run away. Mrs. Claus wheels in this huge cake because it's Santa Claus's birthday, apparently. Santa Claus has a birthday? I mean, I guess that makes sense. Everybody has a birthday, but I just never really thought about Santa Claus celebrating his. I kind of just figured he's like been around for eons and he probably doesn't remember when he started existing. This is still a song, by the way. They haven't stopped singing.
Happy birthday, Santa dear, 1600 special years with you.
Santa blows out the candles and makes a wish. He's not singing anymore, but the music's still playing. And at the risk of spoiling things up front, I'm genuinely not sure if this wish comes back in this movie or not. A character does mention a wish at the end of the movie, but if this is the wish he's referring to, I feel like that's very unclear. But we'll stick a pin in that for now. We'll come back to it later. Santa and Mrs. Claus dance together, and I found out the actress playing Mrs. Claus played Roseanne Barr in an unauthorized TV docudrama called Roseanne and Tom Behind the Scenes. That's not relevant in any way, but I just think that's hilarious. The head elf and elf dog bring Santa a gift with a letter that they say is from New York City. Santa starts out all excited for his birthday letter, but when he reads it aloud, he's like, "Dear Mr. Claus, we regret to inform you that Mr. Hucklebuckle's dead." Oh no! They wanted this moment to like hit hard emotionally. Maybe they shouldn't have given this guy like the silliest name they could think of. The letter's from Mr. Hucklebuckle's lawyer, but he didn't leave Santa anything in his will. Apparently he just wanted to be like, "Thanks for being my friend." He did send a birthday present though, apparently, because I guess everybody knows about Santa's birthday except for me. Now by this point, if you're starting to wonder who Mr. Hucklebuckle is, good. Now we're on the same page. Once I realized this was a prequel, I just assumed everything about Mr. Hucklebuckle was probably information relevant to the movie that this movie is based on. But I looked it up, and as far as I can tell, it isn't. I didn't see any Mr. Hucklebuckles in the cast of Santa Buddies. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have missed that. So Santa pulls this uncanny stuffed dog out of the box, and for a second I was like, there's a live dog in there? But no, it's stuffed. Whoever Mr. Hucklebuckle was like, dude likes dogs, I know that. Santa says Mr. Hucklebuckle was a great ambassador for the Santa Claus cause. The only other location in this movie, other than a mostly CGI North Pole, is a gray-ass, rainy-ass New York City. There's no magic here. Not in this place. Well, I say it's New York City, but in what's incidentally only the first similarity to the movie from my last video, The Wrong Paris, this movie was shot in British Columbia too. So two yuppies in a taxi pull up to an abandoned storefront, Hucklebuckle Toys. They go in and it's just like completely turnkey in there. Somebody just threw like a single bed sheet over every single item in the store. Even all the toys are still in there. The wife pulls off one of the sheets to reveal a throne? I guess Mr. Hucklebuckle was the ruler of the store, holding court from his throne? Oh no, she says it's a Santa chair, for like a store Santa. The man says that Mr. Hucklebuckle was his grandfather and explains that he used to dress up as Santa for the kids. Mr. Hucklebuckle, not the guy. He says the suit he wore is probably around somewhere, which makes sense because everything's still in there. This older man comes in and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Hucklebuckle, I presume." And the yuppie guy's like, no. Just Huckle, actually. He was like, "Frankly, that is far too silly of a name." And he says he changed it. The older man is Mr. Stewart, the lawyer from Old Man Hucklebuckle's will. He says Mr. Hucklebuckle was also a dear friend. They're really driving home that everybody loved this guy. Mrs. Huckle's name is Kate, and I don't think we actually get a mention of young Buck Huckle's name until way later in the movie. So we'll just call him Huck. Or some variation of that. I'm going to call him a bunch of things. Now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking you feel like you know Huck's actor from somewhere. At first, I just assumed he had one of those faces that just seems familiar. But no, this guy's actually a very prolific character actor. You might remember him as one of Robin's co-anchors on How I Met Your Mother, or JD's patient on Scrubs who won't stop smoking. We find out Old Man Hucklebuckle left the store to young Buck Huckle, and he's like, "Sick, gonna put this right up for sale. People on LinkedIn are gonna love this." But Mr. Stewart tells him there's one stipulation. He needs to operate the store for one Christmas season profitably in order to get the deed to the store. What if this was just a terribly failing business? He gets into the books and he's like, "This store is $10 million in debt? How's that even happen? How many toys did this guy give away?" Huck's like, "We live in LA. I'm a yuppie. I ain't got time for this. I got a Lincoln build." And he's like, "Also, look, these toys suck. It's all just wooden trains and rocking horses." But Mr. Stewart's like, "You kidding me? Kids love this stuff. Give them a gumball, they'll have fun for weeks." He tells them they can stay in the apartment upstairs and is like, "Your kids are gonna love it here." And they have this somber moment where they're like, "We actually haven't been blessed with kids." And Stu's like, "Oh, damn, that sucks. Maybe you can get one in this movie." Mr. Stewart says he'll come back on Christmas to check on the store. And he calls him Mr. Hucklebuckle again. And he's like, "Again, it's just Huckle." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever, buddy." On his way out the door, Huck hits him with a Happy Holidays, and Mr. Stewart takes that personally, so he fires back with a hard Merry Christmas. Christmas, okay? Let's not forget who this holiday is all about. Santa Claus. We see this lady taking this sad little kid to this sad, dreary foster home. They don't have to worry about dressing it up or anything, because this version of New York City is already a wet, sloppy dystopia. The headmistress, Mrs. Stout, answers the door. She's played by the lady from Reno 911 and the Goldbergs. And you take one look at this lady and you're like, "Oh, she definitely loves kids. This isn't someone who hates kids." So she hollers for one of the kids she hates to come show the new kid around. But whoever Wilhelmina is doesn't respond. They cut right to another sad kid gazing longingly at a bicycle in the window of Hucklebuckle Toys. And for a second I was like, damn, they got that set up quick. But then I remembered it wouldn't take long because all they had to do was pull the bed sheet off the bike in the window. But real quick, look who the kid is. None other than Madison Pettis, our very own leader of the Honeypot Hive from my Wrong Paris video. I told you she was just around. Like I said, I'd seen this movie before, but I completely forgot she was in it until I started making this video. Kate waves at her and she books it out of there. You can kind of tell off this one wave and 2-second interaction, combined with the other thing about how sad the Huckles are that they don't have a young Huck of their own, that they're definitely going to adopt this kid. Mrs. Stout busts in and yells at this sad sweeping girl. She asks her if she's seen Wilhelmina. Then we see Madison Pettis' character is literally climbing in the window at that moment, so obviously this is Wilhelmina. Mrs. Stout hides so she can sneak attack her.
Where's Miss Stout?
Wilhelmina's like, "I was just playing in the alley. Don't worry, it wasn't anything fun. I know we're only allowed to do depressing shit here." Wilhelmina has to show the new kids around because she's the oldest, which also means that anything that happens in this house is her fault, apparently. Mrs. Stout introduces Wilhelmina to the new girl, whose name is Quinn. She tells her she goes by Will, not Wilhelmina. Then Quinn talks for the first time in this movie, and my lord.
But where's the Christmas tree?
This kid is too innocent for this world. That line read was absolutely crazy. They casted the most heartstrings tuggingest girl on the planet. Will says they aren't allowed to have a Christmas tree because Mrs. Stout hates Christmas. She also says she hates singing, so add those two things and kids to the running list of things Mrs. Stout hates. Something tells me she's in for a rough time in this movie if the things she hates most are kids, singing, and Christmas. What else she hate? Puppies? Good thing there are none of those in this movie. Oh wait, shit. Will introduces Quinn to the other kids at the foster home. One of the kids asks Quinn what happened to her parents, and we're not even 15 minutes into this movie, but Quinn says what I'm confident is the craziest line in the entire movie.
They didn't make it. They had to go to heaven.
Like I said, I've seen this movie before, but I remember almost nothing about it. But I remembered this line. This shit is hilarious. They casted the saddest little girl on earth and they ran with it in the script. One of the other kids is like, "Yeah, all our parents are dead. We're in an orphanage." Then she fucking dunks on the sad sweeping girl, Janie, because she thinks her parents are coming back for her. Damn, chill. And Janie's like, "They are coming back. Probably right now. They're probably outside." Will's like, "Nobody's parents are coming back for them. That's why we're here." And she says the only shot they have is to get adopted.
What stopped it?
Are you kidding me with this kid? This is crazy. Will says couples only want to adopt little kids, not older ones like her. Unless we find a nice yuppie couple to scoop her up. I noticed though that they only have one childless couple and two orphans, so it does raise the question of how they're going to work that out. Well, actually, there's a bunch of kids, but there's only two that matter. We're back at a fully CGI North Pole. We see this like eldritch magic crystal over a terrifying dark void. The main elf from before, Eli, says Santa's been all depressed lately. I guess he's taking old Hucklebuckle kicking the Huckle Bucket pretty hard. So he says he's going to cheer him up with a little Christmas magic. Also, look at this dude's kicks. Why is he ready to ball on the other elves? He's got like little winter hats on some straight up basketball shoes. So Eli puts a collar with one of those cursed magic crystals that we saw Santa wearing on the stuffed dog. Where are they getting these from? Santa's still wearing his and we get no explanation for it. Anyway, so magic energy swirls out of the eldritch crystal and the dog springs to life. It's pretty unceremonious, actually. Santa names the dog Paws, as in Santa Paws. Evil Santa's like, we're gonna be best friends for all eternity.
Eternity? How long is that?
Sell you my soul? What's a soul? Oh yeah, this dog can talk, by the way. It goes straight into the most absolutely silly montage that I've ever seen.
Please enjoy us, heal my broken heart.
It's a dog in glasses. It's not that funny. Thankfully, at least we're treated to this banger of a song during the montage.
Friends are great to lift the soul. Friends are all you really need.
It sounds like they just hit record and started saying shit. I like friends. Friends are good. That's why I like when I have friends. Back at Hucklebuckle Toys, young Huck's looking through the books and he's like, this store is failing horribly. They've barely made a profit for 30 years. He says he made exactly 1 cent profit per year. With the mention of the contract stipulation that young Huck has to turn a profit, and the fact that Mr. Hucklebuckle made exactly 1 cent every year for 30 years, it's starting to sound like some kind of Faustian bargain where you're cursed to sell toys for 1 cent profit for all eternity. I'm looking at you, evil Santa. So young Huck's trying to brainstorm ways to earn more than 1 penny when Kate gives him the idea to get a store Santa. You know, for the throne. Sad Quinn sings the saddest song ever about her dead parents. It's another one where they just hit record and just went for it.
And who will brush my hair, rock me in my chair? Who will sing my song to me?
I will say though, this kid actor absolutely murders this song. No pun intended for the dead parents. First time I watched this, I didn't even really consider that this was actually her singing, but as far as I can tell from looking at the credits, it is. They only let her get like 5 sad speaking lines in the whole movie, but you give her a song and this girl's taking off sprinting. Quinn snuck in this Christmas ornament of an angel. Will asks her about it, and she says it was her mom's from when she was a kid, and that they used to hang it on the tree together. Will tells her not to let Mrs. Stout see it, and she immediately busts in and is like, don't let Mrs. Stout see what? And steals a toy from the girl who thinks her parents are coming back for her. It's fine though, the toy's coming back for her. Actually, no it's not. Mrs. Stout throws it in a fucking incinerator. But like any good cartoon villain, she remembered to put it on an extremely slow conveyor belt, giving us a shred of hope for a daring rescue. Oh, never mind. Man, that was a roller coaster. This is also the first of several examples of moments in this movie that I think could genuinely traumatize a child viewer for life. So Santa and Paws are going to New York City, the only other location in this movie. Santa's got his going out drip on, and the elf dog from before can talk too apparently, but they don't bother to explain that right now. He doesn't have a magical crystal. I don't know, I'm starting to think the rules governing talking dogs in the Air Bud franchise are maybe not 100% consistent. The elf dog's name is Eddie. So Eddie, the elf dog, basically explains that Mr. Hucklebuckle was like a nexus being maintaining the border between our world and one of unimaginable eldritch horrors. Because New York City has turned into a dark place since he died.
Ever since Mr. Hucklebuckle's passing, Christmas spirit has been out of whack in New York.
I guess that's why it's so gray. Santa and Paws are like, we got it, we'll be fine. It's not actually Christmas. Santa says he's going to talk to ambassadors for Santa, which is a thing, I guess. When Santa said that Mr. Hucklebuckle was a good ambassador for the Santa Claus cause, I thought he just meant like he had a lot of Christmas spirit. But now they're kind of making it sound like this is like an actual job you can have. Before they go, Mrs. Claus also gives Santa this reindeer pin that she calls his North Pole pin, which they make sure to draw attention to. So Santa and Paws land in Central Park. This grubby homeless guy sleeping on a park bench sees it.
Wow. UFO.
And immediately follows them to try and rob Santa. Santa bumps into Mrs. Stout, and she doubles down on her role as villain by being an asshole to the actual Santa Claus.
What the heck? Watch where you're going, you old geezer. Stop your dog from yapping. God, shouldn't he be on a leash?
Not everyone has the Christmas spirit, Paws.
Okay, maybe she got a point actually. This guy has a demonic energy and now he's just fully talking to his dog. Santa realizes Mrs. Stout dropped the hat she was wearing, and it turns out Mrs. Stout was right about the leash because Paws runs into the New York City street to grab the hat, and when Santa runs out to stop him from getting hit by a taxi, he gets hit instead.
Paws, no! Stop!
And Santa must have got hit pretty hard because he's out cold. Paws starts looking for help.
Oh, Mr. Elf, Mr. Elf, I need your assistance. Santa's really hurt.
Okay, that's kind of messed up. Can they say that? What year is this? So the homeless guy that's been stalking Santa jumps in and he's like, I got this. Definitely not gonna rob him. Paws follows the guy he thinks is an elf, but the guy can't understand him apparently, so he just thinks he's getting chased by like a wild barking dog. The homeless guy snatches the dark crystal right off of Santa's neck. Then when he sees some cops, he grabs Santa's bag too and he leaves. At first Santa seems pretty disoriented, but then it becomes clear that he's just fully got amnesia. He's like, I don't even know where I am right now. The homeless guy called him Bud, and he's like completely thrown by it. He's like, Bud? I guess that's my name? All he can remember is that he was supposed to be heading north, so he ends up just getting on a train going that way. Paws got lost looking for help, so the two of them are separated. Off to a pretty rough start. The grubby thief is sitting on a curb wearing the dark crystal. He looks through Santa's bag to see what he made off with, but it's just a Santa suit. But he's like, you know what, I can work with that. So he goes and chases off another Santa, panhandling for donations, and steals his gig. He doesn't even put the suit on, he just like puts the hat on and throws the coat over what he's already wearing. Santa ends up at a bus stop across from none other than Hucklebuckle Toys, where young Huck is inside complaining that he can't find a Santa for the store so close to Christmas. Kate says she kind of likes the store actually, but Huck is like, this will do nothing for my LinkedIn. So he just wants to get back to LA and get back on his grind set. Kate says she's dreading the Christmas season without a child. And I'm like, what's this, your first time? You've never had a kid, and yet you're dreading the Christmas season? I don't know, it seems like an exhausting way to live your life. Santa's still confused. He's sitting at the bus stop staring at the store like, Huckle Buckle? That's a weird ass name. There's this way too sad shot of Paws under a van in the rain, which I think we can count as possible childhood trauma number 2. Like I said, Santa's still confused. He just slept right on the bench at the bus stop, but in the morning he sees a sign at Hucklebuckles that says they're open for Christmas, so he heads inside. And Huck is just like, oh, this must be the Santa we ordered. They're like, this guy's pretty convincing. Bit of an evil edge, but we can work with that.
Great job, honey.
Yeah. They're like, you are here for a job, right? And Santa is not doing well. He's like, I don't know about a job. I'm not even really sure where I am. I think I just need a home. They ask his name, and he doesn't even remember that. He just remembers the thief calling him Bud. And for some reason, he's just like, well, I guess that's my name then. And he introduces himself to them as Bud. This scenario is kind of terrifying, honestly. This man should be in the hospital. But Huck's only worried about getting this baby into the green, so he doesn't even notice. Santa shouldn't be out in public, let alone starting a job. Santa's like, what even is this job? And they're like, oh, you pretty much just pretend to be Santa and talk to kids. And he's like, yeah, I think I can handle that. Kate tells Santa Bud that they have a spare room he can stay in. And Huck's like, we're gonna let this scary, disoriented homeless man live with us? Huck tells him they want him to wear his grandpa's old suit for good luck. And Bud's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Then Huck tells him the Santa suit is in the closet and closes him in there. And if this were another movie, I would be pretty sure that Santa was about to get killed in there. A guy in an animal control van drives past the foster home and catcalls Mrs. Stout, but she respects another person who hates all things cute and innocent, so she actually likes it.
Franklin, you animal!
Mrs. Stout goes out to get her hair done, so Will and Quinn sneak out of the foster home. Will makes fun of Mrs. Stout's hair for looking like a hedgehog, and Quinn asks,
What's a hedgehog?
she's a foster kid, not an alien. So Santa changes into his Santa suit from his normal street clothes, and remarks that the suit fits him perfectly, and he puts the North Pole pin on. Huck says Old Man Hucklebuckle used to say that Santa himself gave the suit to him, with a little wink to the audience.
If I wasn't an adult, I'd believe you were Santa himself.
Will and Quinn walk by the Hucklebuckles and Quinn sees Santa, but Will's on her grind set too, so she just says it's not the real Santa and he's just here to sell toys. What a cynical take that is incidentally completely correct. Well, normally it would be, but in this case it is the actual Santa. He's just suffering from a TBI and he's really only here because he doesn't know what's going on. Santa sits in the Santa throne and he's like, weird, this fits me perfectly too.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Quinn wanders into the store and when Kate talks to her, she dials up the sad orphan thing to 11.
I don't got any money to buy toys. They didn't make it.
Kate asks if Will is Quinn's sister, and for some reason Quinn's just like, yeah. Quinn goes to talk to Santa. She asks for the bike in the window for Will, and something nice, like a puppy or something, for the girls at the foster home.
The girls at the foster home need something to cheer them up, like a puppy or something.
And again, I mean, this kid's just too much. She doesn't even ask for anything for herself. They leave, and Will's like, Santa isn't real, and your dead parents are liars for saying he is. Watch, you'll see when none of your wishes come true. The writers remembered this is a movie about dogs, apparently, because we finally get back to what Paws was doing, and he's gotten mixed up with a bunch of, like, street tough talking dogs. Again, I'm not really sure how the talking dogs thing works in this movie, because the guy that Paws chased earlier didn't understand him, and clearly nobody understands the dog gang, but I'm pretty sure everyone at the North Pole was just fully talking to dogs that whole time. Paws asks the street tough dogs for help finding Santa, which they think is absolutely crazy. They're like, you're here with Santa Claus? They think he's just one of those yuppie dogs. The dog catcher that was catcalling Mrs. Stout earlier shows up and throws a net over the street tough dogs, and other than breathing life into Paws, we get our first glimpse at what powers the dark crystal actually has. The dog catcher puts like a dog wrangling lasso thing around Paws' neck. The magic crystal glows with arcane energy, and he just like magically phases through the lasso. So Paws escapes, but the dog catcher leaves with the rest of the dog gang in a net, so Paws follows to try and rescue them. Will and Quinn try to sneak back into the foster home, but like always, Mrs. Stout is one step ahead of them, and she catches them as they approach the door. Will plays it off cool by complimenting Mrs. Stout's hair, and they almost get away with it. But then Quinn just totally blows up their spot.
Yeah, like a hedgehog. But that's what you said?
Mrs. Stout says she's going to show Quinn the consequences of breaking rules, which is spending all night in the basement. But she just shows Quinn the incinerator and is like, well, I think that should about do it. You don't want to spend all night in the basement, do you? Wilhelmina, though, you really do have to stay down here by yourself all night, and also you're not getting dinner. Will's just like, yeah, that sounds about right. And when everyone leaves, Will pulls out a picture of her with her dead parents. Well, they're still alive in the picture. And in the picture, Will is sitting on a red bike, like the one from the window of Hucklebuckle Toys, which I think is actually a surprisingly nice little understated detail. So the dog catcher's right about to unload the dogs when Paws confronts him like an anime protagonist. He runs off to get the dog catcher to chase him, but he manages to shake the tail, pun intended, and comes back to the van to let the street tough dogs out. He calls upon the demonic magic of the crystal once again, and the latch to the cage suddenly flings itself open. The street tough dogs decide that the magic crystal was proof that Paws really does know Santa Claus, and they agree to help him.
Now we're your peeps. We'll keep an eye out for Santa, for real.
But they pretty much have their hands full trying to distract the dog catcher. This random Boy Scout, Jimmy, finds Santa's sleigh abandoned in Central Park, and one of the reindeer starts talking to Jimmy. He explains that only certain people can understand the animals because they can communicate with any creature that believes in Santa Claus. So we get a little more insight into the talking animals. Jimmy's like, I believe in Santa Claus. Like, yeah, no shit, he just explained how this works. The reindeer asked Jimmy for help finding Santa Claus because dude's just straight up MIA. And they explain they can't fly back to the North Pole without him because they need the magic from his crystal. Alright, we're really starting to solidify some lore here. The kid's like, there's literally 1 million Santas in New York. And the reindeer's like, yeah, but there's only one real Santa. Like, yeah, that's the problem. So Jimmy goes back with his troop. He starts trying to tell the scoutmaster about Santa Claus, but he just like marches him along. So I don't know. Not too much faith for old Jimmy coming in clutch here. Maybe they should have asked an adult. Sad Quinn is being sad in her sad bed when she hears a person outside crying for help. But it's not just any person. This person is a dog. Quinn goes down to the perpetually wet street and meets Paws. He tells her that he needs help finding Santa, but she's just like, alright, I gotta go or that lady's gonna make me go to the basement. Paws is like, I don't know what that means, but can I come? So she sneaks him into the foster home, but she says she has to hide him really good, so they just sleep together on the floor of a supply closet. I don't know, she's not too slick. I wouldn't pick this little girl if I needed another number for like a heist or something. Back at Hucklebuckles, Kate's like, man, Bud is great. The kids love him, it's almost like he's the real Santa. A parent goes up to Huck and he's like, your store Santa told my kid to buy presents for kids in need? And Huck's like, oh man, I'm sorry, I'll straighten him out. Kids in need don't drive profits. And the dad's like, oh no, I think that's great. And it's so cool that you give a free present to a kid in need with every purchase. And Huck's like, we do what now? He asks Kate about it and she's like, yeah, I knew we did that. I think it's awesome. And Huck's like, but you see how this is how we make 1 cent, right? Do you want to make 1 cent? Because this is how we do it. Back in the broom closet, Paws calls upon some chaos magic to summon some Christmas decorations from the dark dimension. Will hears Quinn and Paws just barking up a storm in the closet. So she goes in and sees them in there with all the decorations, and she's like, what on earth is going on in here? Is this alien baby possessed or something? As you'll remember though, Will doesn't believe in Santa, so she can't understand Paws. She just sees a strange barking dog in the closet wearing a magical item. Will's like, we can't have a barking dog in the closet. Mrs. Stout's gonna find that immediately. But Quinn's like, he's not barking, he's talking. And Will's like, Jesus Christ, this kid. Quinn says they need to help Paws find Santa because they know where he is. And Will's like, how many times do I have to tell you that the evil homeless man at the toy store is not Santa Claus? The grubby thief from before is still posted up panhandling. The gig must be going pretty good because he's fully committed to the costume now. He's even got like fake gray eyebrows and a beard on. He's wearing the magical amulet, which I can't imagine will cause any problems. Jimmy the Boy Scout walks up and asks him if he's the one and only. And he's like,
Sure, kid, you put money in that bag and don't pretend to be anyone you want me to be.
And Jimmy's like, yeah, okay, definitely not that guy. Back at the toy store, Huck has finally figured out how to turn his charity into a hustle. A news reporter comes to Hucklebuckle Toys to do a piece on them giving toys to the needy. Literally nobody respects Huck's name change.
I'm here with Mr. and Mrs. Hucklebuckle.
Oh, actually, it's Huckle. We shorten the name.
So,
this dude's a reporter. Like, come on, man, do your job. The reporter's like, why is everyone coming here to meet your Santa? And Kate's like, well, he's definitely not the real Santa, if that's what you're asking. Huck explains that they added a minimum spend of $100 to the toy donation program. This dude would rather die than make 1 cent profit. The reporter interviews Santa Bud. He's like, what makes you so special? And he's like, oh, nothing really. I'm not the real Santa Claus, if that's what you're asking. And he's like, I'm not asking that. Then Bud mentions sugar plum pie, and he visibly takes psychic damage from this. He has like a war flashback about the pie where memories of dark crystals and eldritch magic hit him like a truck. Finally, we check back in at the North Pole, and it's about time somebody was like, so where the fuck is Santa? Apparently they've had trackers on Santa and Paws this whole time, but nobody thought to check on them. And when they decide to, they realize that Santa and Paws have been separated, which can't be good. Mrs. Claus tells Eli, the head elf, and Eddie, the elf dog, to prepare to head to New York City to look for Santa and Paws. Back at Hucklebuckle's, Santa Bud is struggling, dude.
I can almost picture her face.
He's still reeling from the psychic damage earlier. Kate's finally like, this dude is homeless, clearly can't remember anything, and now he's coughing like he's got tuberculosis. Should we be concerned? But Huck has finally seen the light, and he's like, who cares? He's great for business. Also, I think this is the first time they mention Huck's name is James. Kate says she's concerned for his health, and Huck's just like, well, it's almost Christmas, then it's not really our problem anymore, is it? We just put him back on the street again. But Kate gives him a look like, you want to sleep on the couch?
It's vacation, somewhere tropical.
And he's like, all right, fine, I'll look into it. His solution, though, is to dress up as Santa himself to give Bud a break. But none of these kids are on LinkedIn, so Huck is pretty out of his element.
Okay, you're done.
Quinn sneaks out again, as she does, to take Paws to Hucklebuckle's to see Santa. But they arrive just in time to see Huck make that kid cry. So Paws is like, damn, maybe this Quinn kid is an idiot.
That's not the real Santa.
Also, real quick, look how talented this puppy actor is. Just following Quinn out of the store. Eli and Eddie are preparing for their trip to New York City. Eli says he's modified the elf compressor to change their truck into any New York City vehicle. I don't know what an ELF compressor is, nor where this magic postal truck came from, so I just have to assume this is another consequence of this being a prequel. But knowing what I know about Santa Buddies, it probably isn't. So they transmute the truck into a New York taxi, and they also magically change into these taxi driver costumes. Eddie's struggling, but he doesn't care. He does it for the fit. It's worth it too, because he looks good. I was gearing up to write, the taxi obviously has the ability to fly. When it pulls out of the building, turns into CG, and fucking teleports through some kind of extra dimensional portal, vanishing into a flurry of sparkling Christmas magic. Bud's reinvigorated from his break, just in time to meet with our goat, protagonist of his own hero's journey, Jimmy the Boy Scout. Jimmy says he's met 63 Santas. He tells Bud that the reindeer asked him to deliver a message to the real Santa. Bud takes more psychic damage from this.
Santa, sir.
The message is just that his reindeer are waiting for him in Central Park. When Jimmy goes to leave, Santa calls him by his name, which Jimmy never gave him. And Santa Bud gives him his North Pole pin. But he still has amnesia, so he's just like, I don't know, I think somebody gave this to me, but seems cool. So Jimmy runs off to continue his quest. The girl who thinks her parents are coming back for her, Janie, sees Quinn and Paws walking back together. We see a gluttonous Mrs. Stout is passed out in a pile of chocolates. So now the girls can get a little wacky. All the girls can understand Paws except Will, so they sing a song about it, and we get another example of the insane casting of child actors in this movie. Every one of these kids is the most extreme ham you have ever seen.
Whenever I hear a Christmas song, I want to get up and sing.
I mean, that's crazy. She got her moment to shine and she was not going to squander it. Paws joins in on the song, but Will, who's the only one down on the ground in our reality, is like, bruh, this dog is going crazy barking right now. Mrs. Stout is definitely going to hear this. She's missing the point of the song.
Will there be presents for me? No.
What's so hard to understand? It's a song about believing in the spirit of Christmas and how that makes it so you can talk to animals. It's pretty straightforward.
Believing in Christmas makes it magic, can't you see?
The girls all start cleaning in the song because that's the closest thing to having fun that they know how to do. But Paws calls upon the powers of the dark crystal to turn their brooms into those wooden horse things on sticks. Then I'm not sure if Paws didn't think that was enough, or if the will of the crystal just like took over, because he just goes crazy summoning Christmas decorations all over the room. And he gives the girls the power to do this magical girl transformation that changes them into these like fancy Christmas dresses, which are maybe like Spirit Halloween costume dresses. I can't tell the difference. The song seemed like it was already starting to work on Will, but once she witnesses the powers of the crystal firsthand, she has no choice but to believe in the power of Santa. Or so she says. The whole time Paws is just standing on one of the beds with his crystal glowing like, yes, dance, my pets. Go forth and spread Christmas cheer. The chocolate could only hold off Mrs. Stout for so long, so she busts in and sees this whole display. She's like, Wilhelmina, what did you do? Quinn literally admits that it was her and that she brought the dog here, but Mrs. Stout's just like, nice try, I know Wilhelmina did this. She tells them to clean up the mess and change out of their Christmas dresses, but for some reason she doesn't think to question where a bunch of orphans got all this stuff in the first place. Mrs. Stout sees the dark crystal around Paws' neck, and she can't resist a fine piece of jewelry, so she snatches it up. Then she snatches up Paws too, and like fireman's carries him out of there. So she throws Wilhelmina and Paws in the basement again, and says she'll take Paws to the pound in the morning. When she goes back upstairs, Mrs. Stout sees Quinn holding her mom's ornament, and she snatches that up too. Will sings a sad song in the basement like a goblin about how she doesn't believe in Christmas, which is actually a rendition of Quinn's Sad Dead Parents song from earlier, and I kind of can't decide if this is like a clever callback or just a budget-saving measure. Just when all seems lost, Paws tells Will not to give up, and she understands him. She just needed the world to beat her down until she had no choice but to believe. Her and Paws sing a duet about hope and love or whatever. There's a line forming at Hucklebuckles, but Santa Bud is experiencing a bit of a failure to perform. The man's on his last leg for real. And he just ends up collapsing in front of the Santa throne. Will wakes up in the dingy basement to find that the dog she fell asleep cuddling has been reduced to nothing more than a terrifying, lifeless facsimile. Returned to the stuffed state we saw him in at the beginning. Because this girl didn't have enough trauma. And for the young viewers, we have what I would consider possible childhood trauma number 3. For a second, I thought it was Santa's blackout that did this because of the way they cut straight from that to this. But then I remembered Mrs. Stout still has Paws' crystal. So I guess it just took a bit for the rest of the Dark Dimension's power to drain from his body. This whole situation is genuinely pretty dark, I'm not gonna lie. But ultimately, it's actually kind of a good thing, because when the animal control guy shows up to take Paws, he's like, you want me to take a stuffed animal to the pound? Mrs. Stout's like, I don't know what happened, but I know it's Wilhelmina's fault. And she gets back on her swiper shit and snatches up stuffed Paws too. This lady's just snatching up everything. I'd hate to play her in like Hungry Hungry Hippos. She'd be a menace. Back in New York, Santa Bud's in the hospital, which is now like international news apparently. The reporter on the scene says anyone with information about Santa's identity should contact the Huckles. Are we sure that's a good idea? They did zero due diligence before hiring this man into indentured servitude in their toy store, and we're gonna put them in charge of this? I wouldn't trust Huck to pull through on anything that doesn't come with a paycheck attached. So Will's just fully traumatized over Paws' untimely demise. And Mrs. Stout just fucking throws him in the incinerator. But we saw with Janie's doll that if it's something that anyone actually gave a shit about, there's actually ample time to save something before it makes it to the end of Mrs. Stout's evil conveyor belt. Eddie and Eli are following their Santa tracker from their perfectly disguised taxi cab from the 1950s, but it must have been tracking the power of the dark crystal and not Santa himself, because they just find the grubby thief sleeping on a park bench. Eli gives us this guy's name for the first time, Augustus, and they show that Gus can understand Eddie the dog. For a second I was like, you're telling me this slob believes in Santa Claus? But then Eddie points out that the guy's beard and eyebrows aren't actually part of his grift at all. It seems that the dark crystal's powerful radiation was causing some sort of genetic mutation to occur, a la the Hulk with the gamma rays. Eli asks where he got the dark crystal from, and the slob's like, an old guy got hit by a taxi and he gave it to me? And Eli's like, yeah, try again. And I'm not sure if the curse of the crystal took over, or if it was Eli's Jedi mind tricks, but Gus the Slob admits that he robbed Santa and he feels really guilty about it, and he returns the crystal. Eli explains that without his crystal, Santa could turn into a mere mortal and eventually die, which evidently is exactly what's happening to him right now in the hospital. Gus takes Eddie and Eli to Santa's sleigh with the reindeer, where they tell the reindeer to stand by for when they return with Santa. But they haven't eaten for like, I don't know, weeks? How long have they been here? So Eli says they need to get him like gingerbread cookies and fruitcake and shit, which is apparently what reindeer eat. And I guess his Jedi mind tricks are strong because Gus the Slob happily agrees to go round them up himself. Since tracking Santa was a bust, Eddie and Eli set off to go track down Paws. The crystal tracker leads them to the foster home where Mrs. Stout and the dog catcher are headed out for a nice classy date in Staten Island. Yeah, it tracks actually. They're probably going to go sit on the grubby ferry and talk about who hates cute things more. Eli and Eddie knock on the door of the foster home. The girls tell them that Paws was here, but he turned into that lifeless husk from before. Eli asks about the crystal, and Quinn tells him that Mrs. Stout snatched it up. All the threads begin to converge. The writer's kind of cooked here, honestly. As Jimmy returns to the sleigh to tell the reindeer that he found Santa Bud, the slob pulls up with a most definitely shoplifted cart full of Christmas candy.
I'm Gus. I'm a North Pole helper.
Mr. Gus, I'm Jimmy.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Jimmy mentions he met all 122 possible Santas, but he said that Bud was the 63rd Santa he met. So this kid went and met with 59 other Santas after Bud. That's dedication. Or maybe he was just like, I don't know, this guy has potential, but he seems kind of evil. I'm going to keep looking. The reindeer notices Jimmy's North Pole pin that Santa gave him, and our non-magical MacGuffin is finally allowed to rest, its mission finally accomplished. The fact that Jimmy has the pin confirms to the reindeer and to Jimmy that Bud was, in fact, the real Santa Claus. Back at the foster home, Quinn discovers a lifeless Paws has been slowly creeping along Mrs. Stout's cartoon villain treadmill towards the incinerator, which he would have been doing for, I don't know, hours, I guess. That conveyor belt is, like, comically slow. Notorious dumb baby Quinn didn't think to tell Eli, Eddie, and the kids that she was going to search in the incinerator for Paws, but they eventually hear her screams from the basement and go to help. Eli's the only adult in the room, so he's just immediately like, turn the power off, which stops the conveyor belt, but not before Paws comes like frighteningly close to literally being burned alive. Well, maybe not alive because he's stuffed, but it's pretty much the same thing. Actually, it's probably worse. For all we know, Paws is fully conscious in there, and he's just got, like, sleep paralysis. Just slowly creeping towards the incinerator, but trapped in his body. Just as Paws teeters over the edge towards the incinerator, Quinn reaches out and snatches him up by the tail, Mrs. Stout style. And he made it out, but that close call, I think, is pretty safely child trauma number 4. Was it 4? Are we on 4? Will knows all Mrs. Stout's tricks, so she already went through her stuff and found the crystal. Eli says there's still life force left in Paws, and sort of seems to imply that if they don't reanimate him soon, he'll die. But at the beginning of the movie, Paws was inside a birthday present from a dead man for who knows how long. Was Mr. Hucklebuckle just like, I'll be fine? So Eli puts the crystal back on Paws, and in a flurry of eldritch magic, he springs back to life. Just as they decide to set off to search for Santa, Jimmy and Gus arrive at the door. And for a second I was like, how did they know where the foster home was? But I went back to check, and Eli literally tells Gus,
3045 West 64th Street. That's where Paws is.
I'm over here like, this children's movie with its plot holes. But no, I'm just an idiot. This ain't the writer's first rodeo. Honestly, I kind of love how this movie just wastes no time. The second the crew at the foster home are done with their thing and ready to search for Santa, the people who know where Santa is just show up at the door. Like, why waste time figuring that out? We, the viewers, know Santa's at Hucklebuckle's. Well, in the hospital with the Huckles, actually. But close enough. But honestly, I kind of just hate a farce. So I really wouldn't miss them searching for the answer to something that we already know. And I take back anything bad I might have said about the MacGuffin pin, because that allows Eli to just immediately take Jimmy at his word. Jimmy tries to return the pin to Eli, but he lets him keep it as a badge of honor, knighting him an official member of the Order of Santa's Helpers. His mission complete, Jimmy scampers off to go whittle a bird call or something. He can return home from his hero's journey a new man, changed by his many adventures. Eli, Eddie, and Gus hop into the enchanted 1950s taxi, along with Quinn and Will, to head to Hucklebuckle Toys. The street tough dogs suddenly reappear and decide to follow the cab. The writers are leaving no open threads here. Also, in case you forgot, this is technically an Air Bud movie, so there's probably some kind of quota related to screen time for talking dogs. The gang shows up at Hucklebuckle Toys, where young Huck and Kate were just about to head out to see Bud at the hospital. Eli tells them that he's an elf from the North Pole and that Bud is the real Santa Claus. Kate seems pretty thrown by all this. Huck just kind of rolls his eyes at the idea, but then when Eddie and Paws start talking, he understands them. Paws says, I see you believe in the Christmas spirit, and Huck's like, I didn't always. So I guess old Mr. Hucklebuckle's scheme worked, and the power of Christmas has broken down our curmudgeonly LinkedIn lover into a veritable Santa stan. I'm guessing if we look at those books, we're going to see 1 cent on that ledger. So the Christmas crew explains to the Huckle couple that Santa Bud's health is deteriorating without his dark crystal. And Huck's like, I hate to tell you, but you're definitely right about that, because dude is not doing hot. Huck says the hospital won't release Bud to them, only next of kin for some reason. Can't a guy get a good indentured servant anymore? So Eddie and Eli are like, well, I guess we're just gonna have to do a Santa heist and bring him back to the North Pole ourselves. They better go drop off Quinn. That girl is not fit to take part in a heist. But don't worry, Eli says he has a plan. Mrs. Stout returns to the foster home with her Bo the dog catcher and bangs on the door. She seems kind of wasted, honestly. And she hollers for Wilhelmina because I guess it's her fault that she forgot her keys or whatever. But when the door opens, it isn't Wilhelmina. It's the woman from the foster service that dropped Quinn off at the beginning of the movie. She says she received the tip from a neighbor named Eli Elf. Okay, we're just gonna dox the guy to this crazy lady. This seems like as good a time as any to mention. I kept mixing up Eddie the dog and Eli the elf. Because for some reason, to me, it just makes sense that when you see a guy and a dog and their names are Eddie and Eli, that I would just assume that Eddie was the guy and Eli was the dog. I don't know if you agree. Maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. Let me know. But when she says the guy's name is Eli Elf, it really drives home the fact that this man's name is literally one letter away from just being the word elf. And yet somehow I was still very confused by this. But anyway, the foster service lady says that she got a report from this Eli Elf guy that the kids at the foster home were left there all night unattended, and that 2 of the kids were just completely missing, even though Eli Elf took them. Mrs. Stout's like, I was looking for them? And the lady's like, yeah, sure. You're actually banned from this house by the state of New York, and if anything happens to the missing kids, it's fully on you. Apparently I was right about Mrs. Stout being hammered, because she tries to argue, but then she smacks the dog catcher in the face, and they both take a tumble down the several concrete steps leading to the foster home. Mrs. Stout's still all pissed laying on the sad, grubby New York City sidewalk, and when she says, you can't do this to me, the foster lady fucking drops the mic on her ass.
I just did.
The Christmas crew pulls up to the hospital in this car that looks like some kind of crazy antique hearse that they've retrofitted into a miniature ambulance. But I looked this up, and this is actually a real thing. It's a Chevy ambulance from the 50s. And as much as this thing's actually pretty sick, why is every vehicle that they attempt to disguise the magic car as from the 1950s? Do they not know what year it is? Or is the North Pole just like Cuba, where there's been like a trade embargo for the last 70 years, so the only American cars they have are vintage? Wait, are the North Pole communists? They do give out toys for free to the whole world. They do wear a lot of red. Oh shit. I thought the Christmas crew's plan would involve their costumes or like some kind of Christmas magic or something. But no. Huck and Kate just literally go into the hospital in plain clothes and steal Santa Bud, bed and all. It's just 2 regular adults in street clothes kidnapping another man they aren't even related to and stealing a bed from the hospital. Oh, and Will and Quinn are there too. Quinn actually pulls through. Looks like she can pull off a heist. That's character development right there. So they load Santa Bud into the 1950s ambulance, and Eli puts the crystal they got from Gus back on Santa Bud. They bring Bud back to Hucklebuckle Toys. Eli's examining him in his nurse costume thing. Kate asks Eli if Santa's gonna be okay, and he's just straight up like, no? Quinn literally asks him if Santa's gonna die, and he just like makes this face like, yeah, definitely, he's gonna die. Like, what? Sometimes this movie is just absolutely crazy. I mean, this is what, the 5th time that we've traumatized a child? Kate comforts Quinn. Everyone's all sad. The street tough dogs are here? Gotta hit that quota, I guess. Just when all seems lost, Paws comes forward, and he offers to sacrifice his crystal, in hopes that the combined power of the 2 crystals will be enough to bring him back from the dark dimension that I assume he's currently crossing over to. But if he takes off his crystal again, Eli and Eddie tell him that they may not be able to bring him back again, and he may end up stuck as a stuffed toy forever. But Paws says they have no choice. He can't allow them to risk losing Santa. He fears what a world without Santa Claus would be like. I mean, we already lost Hucklebuckle. If Santa dies too, there's not going to be anything preventing the unimaginable horrors of the dark dimension from spilling over into our world. The Cthulhu monster frozen in that magic eldritch glacier would probably hatch like an egg, bring destruction to the multiverse. So they put the crystal on Santa, and they leave Paws there so the 2 of them can have a moment alone. There's this pretty cute shot of Will and Quinn sleeping next to Mama Huck. The street dogs are still there, just hanging out at Hucklebuckle Toys. And Huck and Kate are just fine with 3 stray dogs sleeping in their house. I mean, we've established they can't understand them, but for whatever reason, they just don't question it. They're like, yeah, I guess there's just 5 dogs in our house. I don't know. Sometime later, Santa begins to awaken and sees a lifeless Paws standing over him in the bed. He hops out of the bed, and I guess he's not just physically healed, but his memories are completely restored too. Because he says they need to get Paws back to the North Pole, so they can use the power of the Eldritch Glacier to bring Paws back to life. The movie wasting no time yet again. Just as Santa heads for the door, Gus pulls up outside in the sleigh, and Santa hops in and peels out of there with paws in hand. A little rude, actually. Santa just leaves everyone there on the snowy sidewalk. Like, no thank you? Santa makes it back to the dark glacier. He puts Paws' crystal back on his collar. The Eldritch Glacier fires up its magical cannon of life force energy, and nothing. It just goes like, boom, and powers down. Santa says that it's because Christmas is so soon that the glacier doesn't have enough magic to spare. He says he's never had such a friend as Paws, and cries a single tear like SpongeBob in Shell City. A gross yellow tear. Maybe they shouldn't have taken this man out of the hospital so soon. Something might be seriously wrong with him. But the tear hits the ground, and boom. Eldritch magic pours out in all directions, instantly charging the glacier back not just to full power, but to the point that it gets overloaded, bursting with fourth dimensional Christmas energy, so much that it not only brings Paws back to life, but it blasts him forward in time, straight into a fully grown adult dog.
But how?
It was your love for each other and Christmas magic.
But not just any dog. This dog's Jeremy.
Santa, what happened to me?
Jeremy? Jeremy? Jeremy! Jeremy!
Now that he's fully grown, Santa dubs him Santa Paws. The prequel is in full force.
Now we really can be best friends for all eternity, Santa Claus.
Back in New York, the Huckle couple brings the girls back to the foster home, and as they're having a sad goodbye,
We'll never forget you.
the foster lady reminds them that they are orphans in need of a home. And the Huckle couple instantly agrees to adopt 2 whole children with all the energy of a couple where the man finally caved and agreed to get a puppy.
Honey?
Really?
I'm sure the adoption process is way more complicated than this, and this scene is pretty underbaked in that regard. And I also saw the Huckles adopting these kids, or at least one of them, from a mile away. But I don't care, I teared up. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I like Christmas, okay? And these fictional kids get a family and toys. Like, yeah, I crowed, so sue me. Back at the North Pole, they're getting ready for Christmas. Holy shit, what the hell is wrong with those bears? They look so cursed. And the way the people are carrying them, it looks like they're just like lumbering through the workshop. Some elves are unloading the enchanted mail truck, which I think we finally get an explanation for. Eli says they picked up all the letters that were sent to Santa while he was in the hospital. So I guess it's for letters to Santa.
Letters of Santa?
When they pull out the first couple sacks of letters, we see none other than the Street Tough Dogs. They stowed away in the van and came along to the North Pole. They were like, this sad, wet New York City sucks. Let's go live with Santa Claus. They say they're there to help out and get off the naughty list. They let them stay and make them into official elves. We see Gus at the foster home, and he gives the bag he stole from Santa to the foster lady. At first I was like, was he flirting or something? But no, it's all the money he got from his Santa Claus panhandling grift. And he's donating it to the foster home. Yeah, I crowed again. So Santa and Paula set off to deliver presents to the only other location on Earth, New York City. And their first stop, Hucklebuckle Toys. Kind of seems like the only stop, actually. At least I think this is Hucklebuckle Toys. I don't think we've actually ever seen inside the apartment until now. Inside, Will and Quinn are sleeping on a couch waiting for Santa. Well, I hope that's what they're doing. Otherwise, Huck and Kate have decided that a single couch is sufficient for both these little girls that they now own. Paws tells him that the power of the Cthulhu Glacier brought him back to life. Good thing, too, because the girls still thought he was dead. Huck's like, that's so good to see you, bud. Santa Claus. Quinn and Will say,
We have everything we ever wanted. Especially each other. Yeah.
But Paws says there's one other thing. This other very talented dog actor picks up something out of Santa's sack to give to Quinn. Her mom's ornament that Mrs. Stout snatched up. I told you, these writers aren't leaving any loose threads. To really put a bow on things, Christmas pun intended, Kate helps Quinn put the ornament on the tree like her mom used to do. And I crowed again. But there's still time in this movie, which means there's time to tie up one more thread that I actually pretty much forgot about at this point. Mr. Stewart, the lawyer from Hucklebuckle's will, arrives at the store to see how they made out with the stipulation that they set up at the beginning. That they have to operate the store profitably for one Christmas season in order to become the official owners of the store. Huck says they had some unexpected expenses, but after all was said and done, they came out with, drumroll please, 1 cent profit. So Mr. Stewart says Huck is now free to sell the store and return to his accounting business in LA and his Sigma grind set. But the power of the dark Christmas magic and the allure of a lifetime rich in pennies has persuaded Huck to keep the store. Mr. Stewart looks pretty surprised, despite the fact that this was obviously exactly what he was hoping for with this whole gambit. But Huck introduces him to their new daughters, and it all makes sense. Mr. Stewart's the first person in the entire movie to address the Hucks as Mr. and Mrs. Huckle, and this is either another consequence of him changing his mind about the magic of Christmas, or he just decided that it still sounded stupid now that he's actually heard someone say it out loud, because he tells Mr. Stewart to call him Hucklebuckle. He says he literally changed it back. I'm not exactly sure when he did that. Mr. Stewart walks outside, looks up to the sky, and says, "Merry Christmas, you got your wish." And the movie ends. Roll credits. And this is the wish thing I was talking about at the beginning. I mean, I feel like from context, he must mean Mr. Hucklebuckle's wish that Huck would take over the store, but that was never really mentioned, and they did mention Santa Claus having a birthday wish at the beginning, which was also never specified. I don't know, I'm just going to choose to believe he means Santa, so we can just say they wrapped up both things. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You may have noticed I've been wearing my own magic Christmas crystal this whole time. I actually made this myself out of polymer clay. If you'd like to see more about how I did that, I posted a process video on my TikTok. I know, boo, TikTok. But the only alternative is Instagram, so I'm kind of stuck between a Zuck and a hard place. But yeah, if you're curious to see the process video of how I made this, go check out my TikTok. It's the same as on here, at literally just Tony. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, thanks, bye! Is that it? Is that everything? Am I done? Did I do the outro? Did everything? Done? What do I want to stop first?